The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher. And the good news, the weather department, I actually saw stars. Breaking news overnight, an investigation's underway following a shooting in North Bakersfield. Police were called to the area of Jewett Avenue and 35th Street just after 10:30 p.m. The department has not released any information at this time, but the area was taped off and the coroner arrived shortly after police. We are still waiting to learn more from BPD.
This morning, we're keeping an eye on the Windy Fire as it threatens communities just north of Kern County. Evacuation warnings from the fire stretch all the way to the county line, and the fire could make its way into our area soon. 17's Chris Burton joins us in studio this morning with a look at the communities affected. Chris?
Good morning, Alex. As choking as that smoke was that we saw here in Bakersfield last weekend, it's nothing compared to what people in these northeastern parts of the county are dealing with. For most people up there, it's just the latest in what has been a long, hot summer.
Two wildfires continue to rage in Sequoia National Park, with containment weeks away. The KNP complex north of Porterville has burned nearly 50,000 acres and sits at 8% containment. But it's the nearly 90,000 acre Windy Fire that approaches Kern County. Over the weekend, the blaze more than doubled in size, with just 2% containment. For Jaime Gonzalez, whose family lives in the Lake Isabella area, it's an all too familiar scene.
I had to, I had family members. My mom, of course, had to be evacuated. I had, friends, family members just be evacuated from that French fire. But now we have this fire. It's just all over again. That's all I could say.
Luckily, Jaime is safe from evacuation for now. But it's a different story across the county line in River Kern, where an evacuation warning was issued Monday morning. Retired firefighter Jerry Moffitt has been giving fire advice to his neighbors.
It's the last minute, but you need to clean up around your property and so forth. Well, they're going to go to the homes where they have a chance to save the property and also, protect their lives as well.
Even now, ash falls on River Kern like snow from a sky thick with smoke. But Moffitt, who served for 30 years with Bakersfield Fire, doesn't plan on leaving anytime soon.
There is a fire hydrant at the end of my property, and I will probably hook up some fire hose.
Cooler temperatures and increased humidity ahead give fire crews hope, though they also expect shifting winds later this week.
Yeah, well, full containment is anticipated by October 14th, although, of course, as conditions change, that could change as well. In studio, Chris Burton, 17 News.
All right, thank you, Chris. As mentioned, the Windy Fire is impacting our mountain communities here at home, but fire crews in Sequoia National Park are also fighting the nearby KNP complex fire. Officials say there have been no new evacuation warnings or orders for the KNP complex since Sunday. However, all evacuation warnings and orders that have been issued are still active. More than 1,800 personnel are fighting the KNP complex fire, which was sparked by lightning on September 9th. The fire has scorched nearly 50,000 acres and is just 8% contained this morning. Smoke from these fires is impacting eastern Kern County and the communities of Lake Isabella, Mojave, and Tehachapi. If you live in those areas, health experts say you should limit outdoor activities. The Eastern Kern Air Pollution Control District says kids, the elderly, and those with pre-existing heart and lung problems should avoid outdoor activity whenever they smell or see smoke.
Now to the latest COVID-19 numbers here in Kern County, and Public Health announced 952 new cases and 8 new deaths from over the weekend. Since the beginning of the pandemic, 1,540 people have died due to the virus here in Kern. Some good news, though, fewer people are going to the hospital with the virus. 263 people are being treated in Kern hospitals right now. That is 72 fewer people than a week and a half ago. Meantime, another 74 people are in the ICU. Now, keep in mind, while the numbers are headed in the right direction, officials are still catching up on counting the number of people who have died from this virus. It could take several weeks before we know the true number of deaths here in Kern County. And new this morning, Pfizer has officially requested that the Food and Drug Administration clear its COVID-19 vaccine for use in children ages 5 to 11. The FDA is expected to take at least several weeks to analyze data collected in a trial that included more than 2,000 children before it would grant emergency use authorization. While the Pfizer vaccine has been available for Americans 12 and older since May, millions of elementary school-age children are still vulnerable.
We're just 2 days away from a California state public health order requiring workers in healthcare settings to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 or test negative for the virus at least twice per week. Hospital and healthcare employees have until September 30th to get their final dose of the vaccine. Governor Gavin Newsom announced the mandate in August, prompting protests at various hospitals around the state, including here in Bakersfield. Also, starting on September 30th, hospital visitors must show their vaccination cards or proof of a recent negative COVID-19 test in order to see a patient. Dignity Health and Adventist Health also say they're limiting the number of visitors to just one visitor per patient.
There are now 2 human cases of the West Nile virus here in Kern County. Public Health confirmed the first human case back in July, and according to the department's West Nile page, there were 8 cases last year and 32 the year before. West Nile is spread by mosquitoes, and it most often spreads to people during the summer and early fall when the mosquitoes carrying the virus are most active. The virus typically only causes mild flu-like symptoms, but can cause severe illness and even death in some cases.
In education news this morning, Bakersfield College and Assemblyman Rudy Salas are expected to announce a new building at BC's Delano campus. BC is holding a press conference today at 10 a.m. to announce the project. Officials say the Delano campus, the number of students attending 15 hours of class per week has risen more than 50% since 2015, prompting the need for an additional building. The college says the building was made possible by $14 million secured by Assemblymember Salas in the state budget.
Meantime, CSU Bakersfield has received a $5 million grant to increase STEM opportunities. The Department of Education awarded grants to more than 90 Hispanic-serving institutions to help bridge the equity gap that underrepresented minorities and low-income students regularly face in higher education. CSUB is one of 33 California institutes being funded along with Bakersfield College. The new grant focuses on internships, career planning services, and strengthening CSUB's relationships with local industry employees or employers who are in need of qualified STEM employees.
Recapping our top stories this morning, an investigation is underway following a shooting in North Bakersfield. Bakersfield police were called to the area of Jewett Avenue and 35th Street just after 10:30. The department has not released information yet, but the area was taped off and the coroner arrived shortly after police. The Windy Fire was threatening communities just north of Kern County this morning. The Tulare County Sheriff's Office issued an evacuation warning for both sides of the Kern River from the Gold Ledge campground south to River Kern at the Tulare-Kern County border. The nearly 90,000-acre blaze doubled in size this weekend with just 2% containment. There are now 2 human cases of the West Nile virus in Kern County. Kern Public Health confirmed the first human case in July. According to the department's West Nile page, there were 8 cases in 2020 and 32 in 2019.
Turning now to Capitol Hill, where Senate Democrats are figuring out what's next after Republicans blocked a bill which would keep the government open until December. As a shutdown looms, the president's party is also trying to reach agreement in its own ranks on 2 of his top spending priorities. NBC's Chris Pallone has the latest.
Alex, good morning. Without a spending bill in place, the federal government could shut down on Friday, and there's a debt limit crisis looming a couple weeks after that. The nation now 1 day closer to a federal government shutdown and defaulting on its debts.
Our country is staring down the barrel of 2 totally Republican-manufactured disasters.
The motion is not agreed to.
Senate Republicans defeating a procedural vote Monday night on a bill which would fund the government and extend its credit until December, hoping to thwart President Biden's future spending wishes, especially his $3.5 trillion Build Back Better bill, and trying to force Democrats to raise the debt limit on their own.
Democrats want to use this temporary pandemic as a Trojan horse for permanent socialism.
That showdown happening as progressive and moderate Democrats square off with each other over President Biden's top agenda priorities, passing $1 trillion infrastructure bill and the much bigger Build Back Better bill. With a Thursday vote looming on infrastructure, it's not clear if either measure has enough votes to pass.
In this bill, about half of it actually is money for infrastructure, about half.
With both progressives and moderates threatening to scuttle the bills if their priorities aren't met.
Victory is what's at stake.
The deadline to raise the debt limit is in mid-October. The deadline to avoid a government shutdown, Thursday night. So what's next? Democrats could keep the two provisions together, hoping that the threat of a shutdown brings Republicans on board, or they could take the debt limit provision out of it, have a few more days to work on that. In Washington, Chris Pallone, 17 News.
5:34 is your time now. Disgraced R&B superstar R. Kelly has been found guilty in his high-profile sex trafficking case. A jury in federal court found the 54-year-old guilty on all charges, including one count of racketeering, which has 14 underlying acts, including kidnapping, forced labor, sex trafficking, and bribery. Prosecutors allege the singer was a serial sexual predator who abused young women as well as underage girls and boys for more than 2 decades. Sentencing is set for May 4th. Kelly could spend 10 years to life in prison.
A woman is behind bars accused in the death of a woman from an incident months ago. Kern County Sheriff's deputies arrested Melissa Colson on Friday. They say back on July 20th, Colson got into an argument with Cecilia Gamino in the Motel 6 parking lot on East Brundage Lane. Detectives say Colson intentionally hit Gamino with a car, and Gamino ended up clinging to the hood. Deputies say Colson drove erratically around the block until Gamino eventually fell off. She was seriously hurt and taken to the hospital. Gamino eventually died on August 8th. Colson is due back in court on or later today.
Meantime, police are investigating a homicide in McFarland stemming from a shooting. It happened just before 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Officers were called to San Pedro Street near East Sherwood Avenue for reports of a shooting. Police found a victim and gave medical aid until Kern County Fire and Delano Ambulance arrived. The man was taken to the hospital where he died. The investigation is ongoing. The latest killing puts Kern County at 104 homicides so far this year.
A woman was hit and killed by a car yesterday morning. It happened just after 7:30 on North Comanche Drive at Russell Street. CHP says a 17-year-old was driving on Comanche Drive when the woman walked directly into the path of the car. The woman was killed. CHP says the driver is cooperating and officers do not suspect drugs or alcohol. By our count, this is the 37th person hit and killed by a car this year in Kern County.
Investigators are trying to figure out what caused a car to plunge off Highway 178 into the Kern River Canyon yesterday afternoon. Rescue crews were called to the scene near the mouth of the canyon around 12:30. Bakersfield Police, Kern County Sheriff's deputies, and county fire crews were all called out to assist. BPD says at last check, one person was seriously hurt and crews performed CPR. We have several calls into various agencies to find out more about this crash, and we'll let you know as soon as we learn more.
An empty plot of land in Highland Knolls may soon be filled with dozens of homes after being purchased by global real estate company Walton. Here's a look at that area. The property's boundary begins south of Highland Knolls Drive, north of College Avenue, and west of Morning Drive. A portion of the property is also north of Highland Knolls with frontage to Highway 78. The new owners say they plan to build homes on 169 acres of property, and an additional 30 acres is available for commercial development.
The Kern County Fair is set to reopen its gates tomorrow. The fair was closed yesterday and again today, so crews can do some cleaning as a COVID-19 safety protocol. Fair officials say they're working closely with public health and haven't had any issues.
That kind of gives us that time to do the cleaning that you can't do when you're open, because having such long hours makes it really difficult to kind of take the time to really do some of the cleaning instead of just, typical touch points that we do every day.
The Kern County Fair reopens tomorrow at 3 p.m. And also happening at the fair tomorrow, it's Feed the Need Day. If you donate 5 or more non-expired canned food items, you will get 1 free admission into the fair. Always a great cause. Welcome back here at 5:54. We've all felt the stress of the pandemic weighing on us over the past year and a half. And one way many people cope with that is by reaching for a drink. Studies have shown people drank more after September 11th and Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. The pandemic is no different. But this time, more women are picking up this coping mechanism, and it started long before coronavirus became a concern.
You've seen the memes. Oops, did I buy wine instead of milk again? The most expensive part of having kids is all the wine you have to drink. At first, they're funny. Do you drink? Yes, I have 3 kids. And at first, it seems pretty harmless. But for Janie Porter, one morning, suddenly, it wasn't.
I just woke up one day on a particularly low morning, throwing up in front of my child. That's a great way to not feel like mom of the year. But I just decided that morning, feeling so disgusting and disappointed in myself, that I was done. For now, at least.
Porter wasn't raising her glass alone. According to a Rand Corporation study, during the pandemic, women increased their heavy drinking days by 41%.
Honestly, my stress level increased with each child. I have 4 children, and I remember after my 3rd child was born, just being in a friend group that just reached for alcohol more and more, and it became a social thing, and more in the last year. It's very much part of everything that everyone does.
How long has it been since you've had a drink?
It's been about 4.5 months since I had a drink. And I gotta be honest with you, I hate the term sober. I hate the term alcoholic. There was sort of, in my mind for a long time, this idea that you're either one or the other. And I think what's really happening now, which is really exciting, is a lot of people are realizing that you can evaluate your relationship with alcohol, and that doesn't make you a big, scary, capital A alcoholic. It just makes you curious about your relationship with alcohol. Maybe it's not always serving you.
Porter is not alone in reevaluating her relationship with alcohol. Jennifer Woodward, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner who mostly works with women, is seeing more people curious about quitting alcohol. It's something she does with her clients several times a year for a reset. And she says you may be surprised by the results.
Well, we think that alcohol is a stimulant. Really, it acts in the body as a depressant. And so it's going to pull your mood down. It affects your brain chemistry. You think alcohol is helping you get to sleep, and it does. But then a lot of people will wake up between like 3 and 4 a.m. because your blood sugar drops out after you've been drinking, and cortisol, your stress hormone, wakes you up right around 3 in the morning.
Women are twice as likely as men to experience depression or anxiety, both conditions that can be made worse by drinking. But the benefits of backing off booze aren't just mental and emotional.
My hair has thickened, like almost doubly thickened. It's wild. My skin looks better. My eyes look clearer. Alcohol, I used to think, made me a better mom because it made me more patient and I could loosen up a little bit. But I was zoning out for so many of the challenging moments. Now I don't have the fast forward button, but I do have the ability to dial in and actually be engaged with exactly what is happening in my children's lives.
And she says while the definition of sober may include words like subdued and serious, this new lifestyle is anything but.
What I'm experiencing right now is anything but boring. It's living life in vibrant, bold, beautiful colors. The reason that I'm not drinking today is because I'm too greedy of this great feeling I have. I really don't want to give it up.
Jennifer Woodward says it's a good practice for everyone who drinks, even moderately, to just be curious about their motivation. And there are so many resources if you need help cutting back or stopping altogether. We've compiled a list of local support groups and rehab centers, and you can find that on our website, kget.com.
Yeah, I think it's so important to talk about and have that conversation. We've all seen those memes. We've all seen people post and say, you know, think of it as a joke, but there is that serious aspect to it that could lead to something more serious.
And it's not just women. It's just there was a noticeable difference in the percentage of women over men this time. But we know it's across the board. It's rampant on social media.
For sure.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.